disinfect the stuff and then give it back. So there was a little bit more flows.
Did you have a capo here too?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, here we had a capo. I had a capo from my hometown, who was a tailor's daughter from my hometown, who were poor people. And you know, in Europe there used to be classes. We never really bothered with them. And when she got here, she said, "Here I'm big and you're small." And she became a capo. She happened to be a blonde girl with blue eyes, a tall girl. And she is here in America. I met her.
Did she mistreat anybody?
Oh, yeah, me. She could pour the tea for me and pour it half on the floor.
And do you think she did that because she was...
She said it. She made an expression and saying that, home you order each one, I'm the big shot here.
How did she become a capo? Who picked her?
She was a tall, big girl, and most of the capos were that type, and sort of like the pushy type. You didn't have to wait to be picked. You volunteered because you had privileges as a capo. You got more food.
Hit you?
No, she didn't hit me. She didn't hit me. But she got paid to Hashem.
When you got sick, you say that you went to the doctor for this ambulance, and it was a Jewish doctor.
Yes.
Do you remember her name?
I only know we call the doctor Nene. And you know, I don't know if you know what that means. That's anybody in Hungarian. It's an expression of nice, of an aunt or something.
So you would say she was very
doctor
good.
aunt, yeah, and doctor or something like that. Yeah, she was very much on our side. She tried to help the girls. Yes.
Was she Hungarian?
Yeah, yeah, she was.
And then you mentioned that this woman came to you and asked you about your mother coming to you in the dream and told you that you have to survive. Do you remember her name?
After that, after I had typhoid, like a blank, many things that I don't remember. I speak to my brother sometimes, and he says, "Don't you remember?" No, I can't remember. There's a lot of things that I don't remember.
Okay. Now, from the chocolate factory, where did they take you?
In the chocolate factory, they divided the group in three, and they took us up to Thuringia, to a small town called Meltower. There was a lace factory there with a big chimney. In fact, the chimney had the lace on it, but it was converted into ammunition. We already found there 200 Polish girls who were working there. And we were put on the top floor. And we got giving bunks, and the girls used to go down to work in the basement, to the ammunition. Some worked in the kitchen. I worked in the laundry there. That's the only thing I really ever did, was work in that laundry there. They used to give in the stuff and used to be washed and disinfected and piled up, and it was like a laundry room and given out to the girls. But we weren't very long there.
How were you taken there?
By train, by rail, by
so the
cattle
railroads
wagon.
were still working in January of 1945?
Yeah, yeah. So we were taken there, and we found there the Polish girl, and right away we didn't hit it off.
Why?
Because the Polish girls blamed us that they were already there 3 years, and we had 3 years home with our family still. So there was always a conflict between the Hungarian and the Polish ones. And like I said, they were downstairs and we were on the third floor. We were there, and little by little the American followed us there too. And they started bombing. And the bombing was getting more and more frequent. And there were upstairs, and we had nice toilets there and a washroom, and we could take care of ourselves, but faucet, the water. And there was a big barrel there with water, that in case of fire, so you could use that for to put out the fire. And the girls started to do things as they were bombing. We didn't have water in the faucet, so they used up the water from the barrel. So we were punished for it, and they were, when they used to bomb, they used to let us get out to go down to hide. But now, being that we were punished, they locked the door on us, and they kept it upstairs. They said, if you get the bomb, you're going to get it first now. Well, when I was there, what I was doing was, it was this factory, and they used to have big windows, and I was sitting on the windows. They used to bring in gloves from the front, from the German soldiers, and I knew how to make gloves. So I used to sit and knit gloves, fix up these gloves for the German soldiers. And for that I got extra food, and here I was starting to feeling better. And as the American was bombing us, and we didn't know what to do here, we're going to get a bomb on top of us, some of the girls went and broke some windows and threw out white schmatters on the window to tell the Americans not to bomb, and they didn't. They were throwing fire bombs all around the building, but not one fell on the building. When the Germans saw that, what they did is when the bombing came, they used to run away from there. They used to run away across the street. They had some shelters. So when they saw the white schmatters on the window, they really got angry. They really wanted to let us have it. But the American came pretty good, and on a Friday night, we just heard the way the Germans were, with the tanks, boom, boom, like passing by. We didn't know what it was. Saturday morning, we stood up and we stayed up for Zählerpell, and we're waiting. They should come and count us. Nobody shows up. So the Lagerhältester goes to the fence, to the iron door, and she touches it, and it opens. She walks out, and she starts walking. There is nobody in the building. There is not a German. She goes down in the place where we were working. She goes down the kitchen. There's not a German left. They all ran away. They got their orders to kill us all and to run. The only person who was left was this old German guard who used to throw in Nuremberg the aspirin through the window. And he said he's old, he's tired of the war, he's not going to run anywhere because wherever he's going to go, they're going to catch him. He's going to stay here and try to help us. And this way, maybe we're going to have a nice word to the Americans for him. And we did. I remember he was fixing the shoes for us, and he was really very nice. After Shabbos, we go down the basement. There is not a potato left. There is no food left. There's nothing there. Sunday, nobody's coming, no American, no Russian, no English, nobody. We're still home alone there. The only thing that were coming was other people from other camp, like there were a French camp, a Polish camp, with men, and they were all coming in. This was a girls' camp. And let me tell you that this German guy saved us. He was standing by the gate with his machine and gewehr, and he wouldn't let a man walk into the camp. Monday morning, we were already starved, 3 days without food. We decided to go into town. So we went into town, and some of these big husky girls went into a bakery, and they took out hot bread from the oven and broke her into pieces and threw it in the crowd for the girls. Of course, people started eating hot bread after 3 days of not eating, and people were getting very sick. I wasn't eating, and I was so hungry, I remember. I could barely walk. Until everybody was pushing in this piazza there, I decided to walk into a side street. And there I met a German family, a young man, a woman, and a child standing by the gate. And I asked if they would have a piece of bread. They took me inside, sat me down to the table, and they gave me food. I never forget, they gave me potatoes, and they gave me other things to eat, and I ate. My shoes were falling off my feet, the sole was coming off. She went and she gave me a pair of sandals and a few other things to wear. And I ate and drank, and I thanked them, and I left, and then back to the piazza. And as I come to over there to join the other girls, there are the Americans marching in with the tanks. Everybody, I looked at everybody was wearing green glasses. All the American boys were wearing green glasses. I said, what? Everybody in America wears glasses? And we found that, and of course they wanted to know who we are. And we told them, you know, we had numbers, we had, how do you call it? So we said, you tell anybody you're a prisoner of war. And we found a captain there, a tall, good-looking guy who spoke Romanish. He came from Romania, and he said that they're making a camp outside the town, and then they're going to come in and take care of us. And so they did. They came in there. They couldn't believe. He says, how could you be so, you know, not dirty because there was a lake, and we ran to the lake to wash ourselves, but so schmatterdig, so terrible. They went and they broke into warehouses where they had German youth uniforms. They were like blue blouses, blue shirts, and slacks and sweaters. And they came to the camp, and they gave everybody a pair of slacks and a blouse and a pair of shoes and socks and underwear. And they said, okay, go and change, bring out all your schmatters. They made a bonfire, and they burned everything. And now here we were being already, getting food from the American, and that was, the Germans left out April 14, the American came in April 16. We were there till May 1st, on the provinces there. May 1st, the Red Cross truck came and took us up to a beautiful resort place in the mountains of Thuringia called Ranchmüller. And we were there, I was there till August. Now, in this camp, the Germans were cooking for us, they were cleaning. The American soldiers were bringing us sewing machines, materials, and listen, we're girls, we wanted clothes. I knew how to cut. In the dining room, they made up big tables. I was cutting, the girls were sewing, and everybody started having clothes, and it was a different world. American soldiers came in, Jewish soldiers, and between them, a young man who was an assistant chaplain. His mother was Hungarian, and I met him this year, after 48 years, Erev Pesach. He wrote an article in a paper that I have about our camp. And when I read it, I was screaming. I said to my husband, I said, this is Victor Geller, who was the assistant chaplain in camp. I went and I called him up. He was very excited to hear. He says, from all the 400 girls, he says, 200 Hungarian. He says, you're the only one that I ever heard from. And he said, the funny thing is, and when I told him, I said, I'm one of the survivors from camp. And he said, what was your name? And I said, Ashkenazi. And he said, Cecilia Ashkenazi. I said, wait a minute, how do you remember my name? He says, you left an impression, I remember you. And he left, he was there 10 days. He was making, took everybody's name and who they were looking for, survivors in America or in Israel. And he bought me, in fact, the original paper with my name and who I was looking for in Israel for the uncles and aunts. And after 10 days or so, he was pulled away because he was sent back to America. And he promised to ask his mother to send affidavit I should come out to America. And she did send me an affidavit. But I never used it. And it's already a different, how do you call it?
Do you remember the day, you mentioned that you were liberated in April
16.
16. Did you try to make, like, go back home, or did you think that...
Well, when we were liberated, I mean, there was no way of going. There was no transportation available. There was really no way how to get back. Right now, we were just looking to get better. I have a picture, the way I looked when I was liberated, that this soldier took. And when I called him up, he remembered the picture. And you want me to show the picture?
Yes.
You want to stop a minute?
Yes.
Mrs. Weiss, you mentioned that you were taken to a camp to recuperate.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of that camp?
It was Thuringia, and it was Theresienstadt. Oh no! Could you get that out? I just said it before. Let me just think. Mel Tower and right. This is Renschmüller. Right.
Who was under whose auspices was the camp?
American.
Was it the UN or just American? I mean, the
It
Buddhists send money, or is
It was the American with the Joint Distributive Committee together.
Okay. Now, what did you do at the camp? Or you sewed?
All we did, we were trying to have fun and to get well. Many of us who weren't so well, and of course, as girls, we just tried to live a little bit and get dressed and make clothes for ourselves.
Was this a camp just for Hungarian girls?
Yeah, just we, the Hungarians, were there, right? And the American soldiers came in, and this chaplain, this assistant chaplain, whose name is Victor Geller, he came in and he made the first Friday night minion. And he brought in 10 other people there. And I remember that it was very, very sad. They said the first Kaddish, and they said the El Rachamim, and the crying and the feelings were just unbelievable what went through in that night. But then after that, we just, as young people do, we just snapped back again, and we wanted to live.
Did you want to go back to your hometown?
What happened was, I wasn't thinking about it. We all were by the Americans, and we were taken very good care of. And then the end of August, that territory became Russian. Germany was divided into 3, and that became Russian, and the Red Cross came with trucks and buses to take us to Frankfurt am Main. And that was when I had another dream again. That night, my brother, when we left home, my brother was a very sick child. I mean, he was sick as a child. He had kidney problems and was very skinny, and I really never know that he could survive anything like that. So I always considered myself being the only one who survived. And that night, I had a dream that my brother is alive. And I got up next morning, and everybody was all excited, packing to go to Frankfurt. And I asked a couple of girls who would like to come back to Romania. And I found 6 more girls who said they would like to go back. And we packed up. The girls all left for Frankfurt, and the 7 of us were left here with the help of these American soldiers. This is one young man from Cleveland, Ohio.
His name?
His name was Bill Klein, who was looking for his sisters. And with a couple more soldiers who weren't Jewish, they took us into a next city that was called Auerbach. They broke the locks on the hotel and put us into that hotel, gave us plenty of food and cigarettes and coffee to use for currency that eventually when we needed, and told us to wait there till the Russians will come in. And once it became Russian territory, being Romania was Russian territory, now we could just travel back to Romania to go back home.
Did you get any kind of papers to travel and to?
Okay, what happened was, when we were liberated and when this young man came into camp, he made lists and sent that to America and to Israel to look for relatives. And there was another lady there who was an older woman that she had brought in a photographer, and they made up some kind of identification paper for us with pictures and everything. So we had this paper.
Do you still have the picture?
I don't have the pictures, and I don't have the paper. I don't know where it disappeared, but I don't have it. But that was our only identification that we have.
All right. So, using that, you were able to go to Romania?
Now, using that, we stayed in this hotel. That was on a Monday. On a Tuesday, a Red Cross truck passed by, and he stopped by the hotel. And we ran down to see who they were, and I met a cousin of mine on this bus. And we begged them, they were going to Prague. We begged them they should take us along, but they had no room. And he promised that he's coming back on Thursday. He will keep 7 seats for us. And he did. I paid them with cigarettes and whatever we needed. And he took us to Prague. In Prague, we were about a week or so in Prague.
Did you meet other Jews in Prague?
Yeah, we met a lot of people in Prague, and people were from all camps that got there. And we stayed there.
Did you meet any relatives?
I had no relatives in Prague. So we stayed there a couple of days, and then we decided to go by train back to Romania. So we went by train, where of course were very rare and very crowded and really very, very, very tough ride. And the Russians were all over the places, and it was really very hard. We found a couple of boys that we went with because it was dangerous going alone. And we slept back. I had stuff. I had a lot of things that the American had given us. So I had suitcases with clothes, and I had suitcases with food and with cigarettes. But finally we got down to Budapest. Budapest, the first thing we did is we went to this place where all the records from all the camps came in. And I found my brother on the list. And then I realized that my dream was a reality. Otherwise, I would have never gone back to Romania. So I was there also for about a week or 10 days because we couldn't get a train to get down to Romania. And then finally, one day we went to the railroad station, and I told them that if he will attach a wagon for us to go into Romania, I give him cigarettes again. So the cigarettes came in very handy, and we bought a railroad train, and we got in there about 32 by now we were already. And we went down to Romania. I went home. My brother wasn't home because he went to another place of the border to meet me. So I was there one day without him, and it was finally when he came home, it was a very sad reunion. He just couldn't believe that my sister didn't survive. And I didn't go to the house. There were already quite a few people in town, and they had like a men's, like a public kitchen that they were cooking to Goyim, and there were girls supervising them. And my uncle had a house there in the Jewish section, so because, like I said, we didn't live in the Jewish section, so I stayed there. But when my brother came, we went down to the house. And it was really very sad. And the only thing that came to my mind was, like in the song when they sing bells, when they said, the Stiebel is bewachsen mit Gruß, die Tieren zerbrochen, die Fenster und Glues. And this is how the house looked, all broken up and all very sad, and I wouldn't go in to live there. So we stayed in the Jewish section. My brother was there, home already since February, and he had found the money, as I said, and he got into business. He opened up a business, a lumber shop, and some of the guys who stole away our merchandise were kind enough to give a little bit back of it. And he was living there and had no intention of going away anywhere. I came home with these other girls, and there were three sisters and a sister-in-law who lived about 35 kilometers in another city, in a bigger city. And I used to go a lot to them. And my brother didn't want to hear of leaving. Then one afternoon on a Friday, 2 Russian soldiers came asking for my brother. And I said, what do you want from him? He said, well, our record shows that he just became 19 or 20 and that he has to join the army, the Russian army. And I really don't know what happened to me, but I think that Hashem just put some words in my mouth, because I said, oh, well, he's in America long ago. He's not here anymore. He left. And they just made a note on the paper and they left. And I ran to the store and I told my brother, I said, or we're leaving or you go in the Russian army now. That Friday afternoon, he sold everything that we owned, made $500 American money. We packed up, and Shabbos night, without saying any goodbye to anybody, we just walked out of town. We walked out of town there and never went back for 48 years. Then we went to other cities. We went to see an uncle of my mother's brother who survived with my brother. They were together the whole time. But he came home from camp, he got married, he contracted typhoid, and he died. And it just so happened then he was very sick, so we went to the hospital to see him. And we stayed around, we looked for some kind of papers to get out of town, and then finally went down, back to the border, and back again. And meanwhile, I got a telegram from America from this soldier's mother that she sent us an affidavit to Munich, Germany, and that we have papers there, we should go back to Germany and come to America. Of course, that was a little instigation. I mean, it was something to come to. But we really didn't want to go to America because we still were trying to do what my father asked us to go to Israel. We went to the border. I had an uncle living in a border town. And we were there a couple of days. And on a Thursday night, we made a deal with the Russian guards from the border that they will cross us. There was always a group, with a couple of boys there. And here we had already a pregnant woman with us, a couple. And we paid them $10 apiece to take us over the border. Well, Thursday night, they had too much money. They got drunk, and they didn't take us. And Friday night, we were sitting by the table as somebody knocked on the door, and they said, the Russians haben dich aufgenichtet. And if you want to go, this is the time to go. And here was Shabbos, and we didn't know what to do. My uncle was a very frum guy and everything. And I said, what should we do? And he says, Kinderlach, if you have to go, you go. He says, and don't wait for no miracles, because our life is not